The internet has changed so much about the way we communicate with each other around the world, but family judges in the United Kingdom are having to deal with increasingly complicated custody cases, with many more children being born to foreign mothers. And now some judges say that virtual visitations using the internet, Skype or FaceTime, is an adequate substitute for face-to-face visits. Is that fair? Peter, it's not his real name, we're not using that to protect his child, split up with his partner when his son was 6 months old. Peter told me what happened next.
When he was 2 years old, without warning, his mum moved him to Southampton without telling me.
How many miles away do you live from your son?
400.
Difficult for you to travel, but not impossible?
Not impossible, but very difficult trying to balance work and my son.
So what did you then try to do? What did you ask the courts to help you with?
When my son was taken away, his mum basically said, I'm not going to stop you seeing him, but you will only see him if and when I travel back to Scotland to visit friends and family, which I felt was entirely detrimental to our relationship. So I asked the courts, can I have regular contact with him? They said yes, because he's still at nursery, so you can see him once a month for a week, and on the weeks where he's not with you, you can speak to him on Skype.
How do the Skype calls go?
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. What I find is his mum didn't want my relationship to continue with him, and by having Skype ordered, I'm basically sitting in her house for an hour once a week, virtually, albeit that's something that she absolutely doesn't want and makes it as difficult as possible for my son and I.
How does she make it difficult?
My son's 4 now, so she needs to really assist and facilitate the call for him, ensure the screen's pointing in the right direction, there's no distractions for him. Invariably what will happen is she'll point the screen at the ceiling, she'll have 2 TVs on in close proximity to one another, she'll leave him in the room and go away and leave me to try and manage that situation.
What about the week a month, though? How does that work?
I travel down to Southampton to collect him and bring him back with me. We have a great week. It takes him a couple of days just to adjust to being in my home with our family there. But by the end of the week, he's absolutely brilliant. He doesn't want to leave. He's absolutely in floods of tears every weekend when he has to go home.
As he gets older, that week a month will disrupt his schooling, won't it?
It will. We're actually looking at ways around that just now. He'll be starting school in September this year, and I've put a proposal that he'll come to me 1 weekend a month as opposed to 1 week a month, which won't interrupt his school, but will still allow him to have that physical contact with me that we both absolutely need and crave.
Breakup of a relationship involving children is always painful. Do you think if the Skype were properly facilitated, it would be better than not having the Skype?
Skype is clearly a great technological advance, but at the same time, it's not a substitute for real physical contact. You can't play through a screen with him. There's some times where he has said to me, Daddy, I just want to climb through the screen and hug you. In a lot of ways, that makes it more difficult.
What would you like to happen now? You'll get, or you perhaps will get, the weekend a month, which is less than a week a month, but it'll be less disruptive. What else would you like the courts to help you with?
I think the courts could do more to help. I mean, there are occasions when Skype doesn't happen at all. I'll be sitting waiting on it, and I'll get an email or a text to say my internet's playing up, and I just have to accept that. And because it is court ordered, it seems to be the case that if I miss my window of opportunity, it's a Wednesday between 6 and 7, and if for any reason Skype doesn't happen within that small window of opportunity, then that's me missed my chance for that week, and I have to wait till the next week comes around to try again.
Peter, thank you for describing a very painful situation. Thank you. Let's speak now to Mike Robinson, who set up the Custody Minefield, an online resource for parents in these difficult breakup situations. Mike, have you heard other cases like Peter's?
Many. In fact, the sort of problems Peter's discussing are incredibly common, not just in the UK, but abroad as well.
Is there any advantage, if there is custody of the normal type, to add Skype on top of it? Does it have any beneficial effect?
I think there's two things. Is it better than nothing? Yes. Is it a substitute for physical contact? No, it isn't, not at all. The issues of children being distracted is incredibly common. You hear children being tickled, any distraction possible if contact isn't supported.
It's going to be more common, do you think, because it does provide some sort of knowledge? I mean, there were, in the past, plenty of mostly fathers who lost contact completely with their children.
There were. Courts have changed their stance to some respect in relation to international relocation cases. We actually see a good number now which are stopped because the court accepts that distancing the child from one of its parents isn't in the child's best interests.
Is the way that this is developing, though, is it attractive to the justice systems in different countries?
I think it depends on the judge. You had a landmark case this year, really, in the UK, where you had a case come up in front of Mr. Justice Wood, who's quite technologically savvy, who's used Skype himself and describes it in terms of grainy, jerking issues with the call lagging, and the practical difficulties of keeping a 2-year-old still in front of a camera. Undoubtedly, the use of it has grown. You've seen it increasing more and more, although it's actually been used in legal context and family law context for quite a long time. My first experience of it being proposed was back in 2007. You've seen issues in relation to children being alienated in terms of being encouraged not to see the other parent or think negatively about them. The court, in the last couple of years, have actually taken some extremely strong lines, including essentially treating the matter as child abuse.
That's Mike Robinson from Custody Minefield, a group helping separating parents. Well, that's a story from the UK, but it is an idea that's spreading. So if you've been involved in anything like that, the use of Skype to enable parents to keep in touch once they're separated, then at BBC Dan Damon, all one word, on Twitter.